So archery at the top level is arguably one of the most mental-based sports out there. Top matches, world championships, Olympic competitions are very often decided on line cutters, single arrows, tiny differences at the target. Shoot-offs are very, very common, especially in team rounds as well. And this requires an immense amount of focus, mental energy, concentration, and emotional regulation and keeping your calm. So is technique even important in this case? If all these matches are decided by, the mental aspect of shooting, why even bother with technique? So this is going to be a different video today. I think you're going to like it and get a lot from it. So let's roll the intro and then we'll get to the video. So first off, yes, archery is hugely mental. So in terms of, like I said, top level competitions, Olympic competitions, the amount of importance that confidence plays and keeping focused, not being distracted, emotional regulation, maintaining your calm and everything like that is hugely, hugely important. Actually, in a study by, I think it was a top Korean university, I think it may be KNSU. So in this study, they surveyed hundreds of Korean archers and Korean coaches, and confidence was the #1 factor that came from this study as being the most important factor for success in archery. So yes, it is hugely important to be confident in what you're doing and have that confidence to deliver, when it counts, under pressure, at the big competition, at that crucial moment. So yes, archery is hugely mental. What's more, we've all had a time where we've just been in the zone, really focused, and just shot that amazing personal best or personal record because you were really on it, mentally focused correctly, and the difference that made on your score and on your performance that day. So with that, I want you to let me know in the comments below when you remember a time where you just were on it mentally, you had that mental focus, you were shooting really nice, and you had maybe a personal best or something like that. Let me know in the comments below for that, and let me know how that mindset helped you that day. So yes, it is really important, and we've all experienced these times where we've got into the zone or flow or that kind of thing that sports psychologists talk about. But the question is, how important is that relative to overall performance? And that's what I wanted to touch on a bit more today. Now, the reason I wanted to touch on this is because, frankly, it would be naive to, assume that other sports don't have a similar focus on the mental aspect. For instance, you couldn't say that a sport such as golf or Formula 1 doesn't require immense mental effort, doesn't require immense concentration, and doesn't require a massive amount of the decision at the top end of who gets the medals to be decided by the mental aspect. So in sports such as this, then yes, absolutely, there is a massive mental aspect as well. The same goes in more kind of physical based sports that you might think about, rowing, cycling, running, that kind of thing. There is undoubtedly a huge mental aspect in terms of deciding those top finishers and who wins on the day. So archery is not unique in this aspect, and it's actually similar to other sports. So this is a key thing to understand here, and not think that archery is kind of special in this way by being just mental. So there are obviously other sports that have maybe less mental aspect to it. Archery is definitely arguably one of the most mentally demanding sports in terms of concentration, but it's not entirely unique, and there are other sports that are very similar, such as golf, which is often the classic example as well. So I just wanted to make that clarification and make sure everyone was clear on that. Now, the thing is, people use the fact that archery is 95% mental as an excuse for poor technique. This is what I don't like. People will say it's mostly mental, the top, decisions at competitions, who wins, who doesn't, is mostly mental. And very often, I have no idea why, but they'll use this as an excuse to not need to work on technique. Oh, my technique's good enough, I just need to work on my mental game. And that way I'll go from shooting 620 to 670, which is frankly just ridiculous. So this is not an excuse for poor technique by saying that archery is 95% mental. Yes, the top level competitions, maybe the top results are determined by your mental preparation and your delivery on that day, but technique undoubtedly is hugely important. So without technique, mental strength, confidence is pointless. So I'll repeat that. Without the technique, your mental ability is pointless to start with. We all know, that archer that thinks they're the best in the world and thinks they only ever shoot 10s and they never make any mistakes at all, but actually they're not the best in the world and they do make mistakes, and maybe they shoot at a lower level than they think they do, and this actually limits them. Whereas when you then compare that to someone who, some of the best archers in the world, I've been fortunate enough to talk to some of the top archers, and they're super down to earth, super nice. They're not, they don't believe that every single shot is a 10, and they don't, have this overconfidence to compensate for something, and they have got the technique to back it up, and that's the important thing. They've got the technique and the mental aspect, and that's why they are the top archers in the world and can deliver on the big stage and get these big, world medals, world championships, Olympic titles. And this is the key thing to understand. And the funny thing is about this as well is that even some coaches will say that an issue is mental, is based mentally, when it's not. So for instance, if someone's struggling through the expansion, struggling through the clicker, holding at full draw, a lot of people will say it's purely mentally based. They can't, expand through the clicker because they're just holding and aiming too much, and they can't get the correct thought in their head. And this may be somewhat true in the way that they're thinking about the wrong thing, but a lot of the time it's actually just technique based. Yes, they're thinking of the wrong thing because they haven't learned the correct technique to do the movement properly and actually get through the clicker and shoot the shot. If you don't know how to do something, you won't have confidence doing it, and when you get to full draw, you won't be confident to expand aggressively and shoot the shot. It's pretty simple. So telling someone in this case that they're limited by how they think, and telling them that and ingraining that in their mind is actually not very useful. It actually can be quite damaging, because this archer then goes around thinking mentally, I'm shooting like this because mentally I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not confident, and this is how I am, and my technique doesn't need work, it's just all in my head. That's a super common thing, and that's not very helpful, when actually in reality it's probably that they just need to be taught and learn the technique properly by someone who can teach them and knows what they're doing, and then that will give them more confidence, more ability to do the correct technique, and then over time this confidence will grow as well. If you tell someone that mentally you're not ready, or you're not doing the correct thing, or you're mentally limited in terms of your preparation, then this is not going to be a very useful thing, and this is not going to help confidence in the long run, and it's not going to help that final commitment and confidence when it comes under pressure at a competition. So this is something that's really, really important as well. So now this is how I look at how much of your performance is mental and how much of it is technique based and physical based as well. Think of it like this: your technique and your physical ability determines your range of your shooting. So you might average 630. That means maybe on a bad day you might shoot 610. On a great day you might shoot 645. That is your range. That is determined by your technique, your physical preparation, what skills you've learned, that kind of thing, your tuning, those things. Your mental aspect of your shooting determines that final 5% of where you're going to fall in that range. So if you are on it, if your mental preparation is great, if you're confident, you stick to your plan, that kind of thing, you will be at the upper end of your range on that day. Super simple. It doesn't mean that if you're super confident, you average 630, but if you just work on your confidence and you go to a competition and you're super confident, you will shoot 700. That doesn't mean that. That's just ridiculous. There is a chance you will shoot 700, yes, but that chance is incredibly small, and what will probably happen is you will land somewhere in the upper range of your normal range. And that's great. That is exactly what you want, and that is all you can hope for on a great day, and that is how you shoot personal bests, and that is great. But do not think that just by improving your confidence, you will get from a 630 level shooter to a 660 level shooter, because that is not how it happens. There are key technical things that you need to improve as well to get from that level to that level. And the same goes from getting from 660 to 690. It's exactly the same. Yes, there is a chance that a 630 level shooter will beat a 660 level shooter, the same as a 660 level shooter can beat a 690 level shooter. But the chance is small, and it means that the general level, you have to be at the upper end of your level, they have to be at the lower end of their level, and the chance of that is smaller than if you were evenly matched. This is where the mental aspect comes more into it. When you have two archers, two competitors that are more evenly matched, both 660 level shooters, then absolutely that is where the mental aspect comes into it. World Championship level matches where you've got number one and number two in the world, absolutely the mental aspect is super important. But don't blindly think that because archery is mostly mental that you don't need to work on your technique. You just need to improve your confidence and you'll be world champion. It doesn't work like that. So make sure you understand that technique is super important and gives you your range. Then your mental preparation and your mental skill on the day will set where you are within that range, or maybe slightly above it, and you'll shoot a personal best, and that is awesome. So this is a key thing I wanted to illustrate and kind of explain to clarify that for a lot of people. To give this a bit of an analogy, you can think of this in the same way as running or sprinting or whatever, 100-meter sprint. You know, you might believe that you can run as fast as Usain Bolt, and that's great if you think that. And maybe for the first 2 meters, you might be able to keep up with him. But as you run the 100 meters, the chance that you will actually beat him is very small. This is the same when it comes to competition with archers that are far above your range. Yes, there is a chance you'll beat them, but that chance is small. And generally, the more arrows you shoot, the further away you will be and the less that chance becomes. This is why it's super important to prioritize building up your technique and building up your technical ability, your physical ability, as well as your mental ability. They're all together, and it's not just archery is mental, so I'm just going to do that. So this is super important. And besides, your technique actually dictates, or should I say influences, your confidence. You need to find a technique that allows you to be confident in what you're doing. And top archers, even, you know, top Korean archers have said before, you know, I tried to find a technique that allowed me to be confident in my shot. I've had times as well where, you know, I felt super confident because I knew exactly what I was doing with my technique. I had the routine, had it all down. Other times, didn't have the routine, didn't have a solid idea of what I was doing, didn't feel confident. And these were within the same month. So it doesn't just depend on blindly believing something. You have to develop, you have to prepare, and you have to be confident in what you're doing in terms of your process and your routine and everything like that. And training your technique, training your physical ability is not just about training these areas. When you train these and when you train them hard, that also trains your mental ability, how you think, how you respond under, you know, stress because you've had a hard training session. All this translates into competition and is actually transferable. So by working on your technique, by working on your physical preparation, these are methods of also working on your mental approach to your shooting as well. So I hope you've enjoyed that kind of rant to camera there. I think this is a really, really important part of becoming a great archer and getting as much as you can out of your shooting and enjoying it as well. And I see a lot of archers that kind of fall down this trap of just trying to believe that they're the best in the world, and then that's going to happen, because it doesn't. You still need to work on your technique and improve other areas. It is super important, and the top athletes in the world know this and they do this every day, and that's how it works. So I hope you've enjoyed that video today. As always, be sure to smash that like button, especially if you enjoyed the slight rant I had today, and drop me a comment below if you've got any feedback and comments about the video as well. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll also put the social media links down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.